Call to order, flag salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Open Public Meetings Act statement. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Augusta, Branchville, Lafayette, and Sussex post offices. And notice sent to the New Jersey Herald, Star Ledger, and the clerk of the boroughs of Branchville and Sussex and the townships of Frankfort, Lafayette, and Warren. Mission statement. High Point Regional High School, in partnership with staff, family, and community, is dedicated to the quest for individual excellence. By fostering high standards of achievement, we prepare students to become responsible and productive members of a diverse society. Roll call.
Mrs. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn is not here. Mr. Kehoe's not here. Ms. Keimer?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Reilly?
Here.
Mr. Voigh's not here. Dr. Ripley?
Here. Executive session. A motion will be made the High Point Regional High School Board of Education or executive session to provide an update on personnel, legal, and negotiations items which are exempt from public participation pursuant to New Jersey Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, Open Public Meetings Act. Any discussions held by the board which need not remain confidential will be made public when appropriate. Minutes of the executive session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. The board will reconvene a public session at the cafeteria annex at the conclusion of the executive session. Any motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. With this section a little longer than 45 minutes, please be respectful and mindful that your comments are being recorded. Yeah.
Excuse me, Linda Hassan, Sussex Borough Council. Do you have a copy of the budget?
It's over there. They're all over there.
I can see it.
Yes, ma'am.
When it's actually this time, presentation on the, it's not to work, that's when it's over. It's interrupted when it's over. But we did, like, just so you can say. Watch the whole presentation. Ask questions. Nice. Is that all she wanted?
That was all you needed, right, Mrs. Hassan? Okay.
Thank you.
Alright, Mr. Dr. Ripley, presentation.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. Each year I stand up and discuss the budget, and I talk about scarce resources and that we have competing interests as an educational facility to provide a world-class education to the children of our community, while also recognizing that the tax levy can be a hardship on a community that has suffered over the last 10 years in particular. Also, the reality that we have had a reduction in student enrollment. And so I believe that each year over the last 5+ years, this board has demonstrated a commitment to fiscal responsibility rarely seen. And that while we can talk about fiscal responsibility, it is my belief that this board doesn't just talk about it, but demonstrates it. So here's our budget presentation for the fiscal 2019 High Point Regional High School Board of Education budget. As I said, a commitment to fiscal responsibility. Next year, the tax levy is being reduced by $99,655. That is in spite of significant increases in special education services and tuition, significant increases in employee benefits, and our commitment as an institution to provide increased security for the safety of our children and our staff. And so these are costs that are increasing significantly. Nevertheless, the board's position is, in spite of that, we need to continue to demonstrate a reduction in the tax levy. Here is a pie chart on a breakdown of where the allocation of the budget dollars lie. If you can see, obviously, salaries and benefits, 74%. I will tell you that our benefits fluctuate each year. They rarely, if ever, or at least in my experience, do not go down. And this is a significant cost. And so if you look here, special education tuition, transition, and services is also an increasing portion of the pie. Special education is an area in which the New Jersey State Legislature is considering, because the rising costs can be very difficult to maintain a district budget below the 2% cap, particularly with rising special education costs. Our special education population has increased. When I first became director of curriculum back in 2010, we were at approximately 15.3%. We will exceed 22% special education population this year. That comes with significant cost in dollars. And then you can see miscellaneous, you can see supplies, texts, and utilities. So what we've done over the last 5 or 6 years is reduce the discretionary spending to the point where we're demonstrating fiscal responsibility. All right, that's a little darker than I'd like. Nevertheless, it gives you an idea. All right, here we go. Last year's budget was this. This is the proposed budget. You could say, but that's higher. It is $963,198 higher. Here's why. $600,000 of this $963 is from reserve accounts, capital and maintenance reserve, so as to maintain the integrity of the facilities of High Point Regional High School. One of the things that this community has discussed in surveys every time we do a community survey is that the community sees the facilities as a source of pride. This board has demonstrated that High Point is a community center and that we utilize this building 24/7, 365 because it is, we believe, a community center. However, there's a requirement to maintain those facilities over time. Maybe in 20 or 30 years, none of us here may not be in our current positions in 20, 30 years. So we need to be good stewards of that which is our responsibility today. So that in 30 years from now, the board members who sit here and the superintendent who speaks to our community can look back and say they were good stewards in the past and maintain the integrity of educational facilities. And the two projects in question, which are part of that number at $600,000, capital reserve $300,000, maintenance reserve $300,000, all of which come from reserve accounts, as I said, which do not go against the tax levy. That is to renovate 2 science labs so as to maintain our world-class curriculum. We have been deeply committed to being the example of excellence in STEM education, and that requires us to renovate 2 labs, science labs, which have not been renovated to keep pace with current technology and curricular requirements. The other project that's being done to maintain the facilities is the West Gym. I don't know if anybody's been to the West Gym lately, but if you go to a wrestling match, which we have several each year, the quarters are quite confined. We need new bleachers, we need better lighting, we need it to be renovated to the degree that it is more usable for our wrestling matches and our other community events that are there. And so a portion of that capital maintenance reserve will be to renovate the West Gym. We believe as a board that after having done this, we have demonstrated over the last 5 or 6 years that we have maintained, if not upgraded, the facility significantly enough that the people 20, 30 years from now, will see this board as strong stewards of that which has been placed in their responsibility. So, that, now you're saying, some of you may be saying, but that says 963, you just said it's 600,000. Yes, the other $363,000 increase to the operating budget is the increase in benefits about which I spoke, tuition, special ed tuition, fees, and services. That is the increase of the 963. I want to remind the community that last year, even though my back is to the camera, I'm speaking to the board, that last year this board reduced this general fund by almost $1.3 million. And so, when I say that difference there is significant, it is based upon maintenance capital reserve and the increase in benefits. All right, special fund, Fund 20. These are federal grants, IDEA, Title I, II, III, IV, and Perkins, all of which come from the federal government, and we do not know our exact numbers yet. So this is an estimate subject to federal funding. That's a source of revenue. So finally, here is last year's operating budget total. Here is this year's for a difference of $955. All right, I just talked about revenue. Here are budgeted revenues. Fund balance. Mr. Minkwitz, can you briefly explain fund balance?
Fund balance is calculated as 2% of our prior year's expenditures. The auditors will do a calculation, all the money we spent and encumbered, they'll take 2%, and we're about to keep those funds. There are another small amounts of those funds that can be added on top of the 2%, extraordinary aid, non-public transportation, but essentially it's 2% of the prior year's expenditures.
And that's calculated as revenue. The tax levy, if you see here, this was last year's tax levy, $14.3 million. Last year, this board's budget was a reduction from the prior year tax levy of more than $1 million, or 7%. When I first became superintendent, the tax levy for the board was over $16 million. This board has reduced that tax levy to $14.2 million. So while the reduction this year is approximately $100,000, it is less than last year's $1.045 million. Nevertheless, we believe that this is a continuation of fiscal responsibility. All right, other revenues are listed there without my pointer. Oh, there we go. Tuition from our send-receive relationship. You will see this, we will have full immersion of all 9th through 12th graders coming to High Point. This is something about which High Point remains deeply committed and excited to have the Camano community and children a part of what we're doing here. We very much want them to be assimilated as a part of the family of High Point, participating in athletics, extracurricular activities, clubs, and excelling academically. All right, extraordinary aid, other miscellaneous revenue is increasing by, we've budgeted by an increase of 8.5%. Can you explain, Mr. Minkwitz, briefly what that increase is allocated?
No, can I go back to your original question?
Sure.
Fund balance. So I explained what fund balance was. So the end of 16-17, 2% of our expenditures were calculated and we have fund balance. The amount above that, we have to put in the 18-19 budget. So that was the amount above 2% of 2016-17 expenditures. I just wanted to add to my explanation. I'm sorry.
Oh, please.
Explain
Well, I just wanted a brief explanation as to what is calculated in miscellaneous other and extraordinary aid. And it increased by 8.5%. I'm just looking for a brief explanation as to what that entails.
Extraordinary aid probably entails at least 90% of that. Extraordinary aid is the amount that we spend per outplaced special education student above 40,000 or above 55,000, depending on what that student's classification is. And we receive about 100 to 200,000 a year in that amount.
So extraordinary is relevant to out-of-district placement special ed?
Correct.
Okay. State aid, as we see here, was up 90,000. When we did our budget initially, presentation on March 13th, we had yet to get the state numbers. And at that meeting, the board was committed to, if the state increased our funding year over year, that the entirety of that increase would go into tax levy reduction. And every bit of it did. That 90,000 approximately went in, oh, there it is, went into reducing our tax levy. Originally, on March 13th, the tax levy was reduced approximately 10,000. Because of the increase in state aid, every dime went into reducing the tax levy to approximately 100,000. All right, I'm getting long-winded. Another revenue source, special education, Medicare, capital reserve, maintenance reserve, that which I was speaking about earlier. Last year, we did not include any of that in the budget. This year, here is the allocation, the 600 broken down into 300,000 increments, about which I spoke. General fund subtotal, increase of 4.3%. I've already spoken as to why the increase is such, and special ed revenue is reduced by approximately $7,500. It gives you the grand total of the numbers about which we spoke for the general fund. Here is the impact on municipalities. This comes to us from the New Jersey Department of Education, based upon an average, actually, of 3 years. Nevertheless, this is as close as we can get it at this time. I think it's accurate as of the ASSA report. And you can see the breakdown in municipality. So Branchville has had a population boom, and so therefore their percentage will rise. All right, and you can see the, and if I go to the next slide, you can actually see the reduction. So Branchville, because of said population boom, will see an increase of 47,000. Here's the totals. Frankfurt will see a significant reduction. Lafayette, a minor increase. Sussex, a relative significant increase based upon, let's look back again, what is the Sussex increase in population? Is only 1, and yet the tax levy share increases. Once again, these percentages come to us from whom? The State Department of Education. Next. And Wantage. So those of you who would live in Wantage, me among you, will see a significant corporate tax break of $3,885. So you probably can't go to Dunkin' Donuts for your share. Nevertheless, it's not going up. All right, and that is the last slide. So once again, we're allocating scarce resources to ensure the integrity of our educational institution, the integrity of the facilities, a world-class education, but also continuing the laborious efforts over time to continue to reduce the tax levy to ease the burden on the communities. Any questions? Yes, ma'am. I'll sit down and we can take public comments on the or questions.
Okay, we'll open the floor for public comments, same rules.
Your per pupil course, is that on here?
It is not.
It's not. So what did your per pupil course go to for next year?
It depends on what specific data. I struggle to answer that only in that it's rising. And the reason the per pupil cost will rise is because the enrollment has dropped. So it depends on if you go onto the state DOE website and it says, one thing it could say 24,000. If you we get a list every single winter, updated, certified per pupil cost rate from the state. I got that, it did go up. Last year it was 19,000 and change. This year it's 21,000 and change. So there's a lot of variables included in that number. So it depends upon what source you're deriving that information from. And I'm not trying to be evasive in that. It just depends upon what variables are included in that number by which entity you're reviewing.
Cost per pupil. Okay. So So it
Also,
varies, you can't give me a current.
I don't know.
Like I said, we got a certified rate from the state that we get every year
Right.
for 9 through 12 education. It's approximately a little more than 21,000. But here's my hesitation. That is the certified rate from the state. However, that is not the number likely that you will see if you go online and say, the taxpayer's guide to the universe. It may say it's different. And so I'm just cautioning you that the question of per pupil cost, it depends upon the source from which you're getting it and what variables are included. I will tell you that the Montague students are not included in our per pupil cost because it's a send-receive relationship.
But, Mrs. Hassan, the Montague pupils can't be used in the division of our total budget
Right, I
divided.
understand.
But the money that Montague sends in tuition is included in our budget. So we collect the tuition revenue, but we're not allowed to divide it out by the Montague kids. So that raises our per pupil costs artificially too. And I know,
It's crazy.
it's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's DOE math, but you can't include the Montague students in your total pupil count when you're dividing your total budget by the pupils.
Your number of pupils for next year, though, has gone down again
Yes, ma'am.
by,
I will tell you that it is our estimation that we had last year, I think, not inclusive of Montague. My number here is 853. It is anticipated that will drop slightly next year. It is only an estimate at this time. That official number is derived from an October 15th assessment of the number of students on roll. I will tell you over the last 6 years, our average drop per year has been 35 students average per year over the last 6 years, which is significant. An average percentage per year of 3.74%. But I would also say that relative to that, this board has reduced the tax levy by 1.9% over that same time period.
I've asked this question before, I'm going to ask it again. Do you feel that this budget reflects the loss of all the students over the past 10 years?
All I can account for is the last 6. And I believe that over the last 6, the commitment to reduce, in my opinion, and there are numbers that back this up, no other entity, Board of Education or municipality can compare to the level of reductions that this board has demonstrated.
Any shared services?
We do share services with the Wantage municipality for maintenance of fields. The board has demonstrated a desire to share services with other educational institutions.
Right. Have you heard anything on that issue?
I personally have not.
You were talking about fund balance before. Fund balance is surplus. Is that correct?
Fund balance, every school's allowed to keep 2%
Right.
in fund balance, and they all do.
But it is a surplus. I mean, accounting-wise, it's considered a surplus, right?
The school, actually, there's a 2%, and then you're given a minimum amount by the state that you have to keep in surplus in
Okay.
case of an emergency.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Seeing no other public comments, moving on to presentations. Student council report. Melissa, Speaker of the House, will update the board on student council activity.
Thank you for being so patient.
This week, the student council is holding the executive position elections. The candidates include Lauren Weiss for Speaker of the House, and she's running unopposed, so she'll be here next year. Mitchell Vogue for Treasurer, Sydney Hill for Secretary, Abby Block for Vice President, and Ray K. Malone and Nick Thomas for President. Elections for class positions are being held next week. The student council has decided to donate $1,000 to the DiCarlo family after the death of Mandy DiCarlo, a 2015 graduate from High Point. So rather than donating to the usual charity, we decided to keep it local and support our community. And then lastly, we are planning the NJASC, the New Jersey Association of Student Councils, and our Great Adventure trip is being held on the 30th of May.
Let's have a question.
Yes.
And if you don't know the answer, that's okay. If you don't contribute to your state charity, and we're giving it to the DeCarlos, is that
Yeah.
what you're saying? Does that cost you guys prizes at the state level? Because we normally have we have so much that we donate, and we always get prizes, like the top percentage of donors.
I don't think so. I know when we go to Great Adventure, there's like a big student council thing where people get awards. I don't think that reflects anything with the charity we donated to. I
Okay,
think it's
good.
just what we've accomplished.
Because I wanted to say to you, if that does happen, I think you've made the right decision to stay local, regardless of getting a blue ribbon.
Thank you.
Nobody from the HPA is here. We'll move on to the principal report.
Thanks, Mr. Billy. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. It's a sunshine day, cool campus today if you're out and about. We'll have a little background. A couple things from the past weeks or so. We had a beautiful symposium here. I know Mr. Anderson was in attendance for that as well. Stand Up to Hate Symposium, where we had about 100 students or so in the media center. It was a thriving environment all day long, and it really was a nice event to see so many cross-curricular activities. There's still, I think you took a picture of the media center earlier, so you saw some of those. We also had them placed throughout the school as well. We had guest speakers come in. We had a lot of student-driven activities. We had artwork. We had science work in there. It was really a beautiful event overall. And I wanted to thank Mrs. Cordillo, Lisa Hodgins, Heather Stroud, Carolyn Acker, Serena Harris, Aaron Baker, Julie Clausen, Kevin Fenton, Mimi Fenton, and Aaron Myers for the coordination of that. We talk about all the time in the Strokes, we talk about some STEM activities as well, about that cross-curricular piece that's so important for us as educators, but also for the students. And they had really an unbelievable time to be able to stand up to hate, and really, as one of the guest speakers said so eloquently, one day at a time, one change at a time, and we can be that change. It was really very inspiring to see that. So congratulations to them for that event. Moving on to some student accomplishments. I'm not going to have to read this because our choir recently came back from what we call All-State competition, and we had quite a selection of students. All-State Mixed Choir, Kenzie Begot, Benji Morrison, Samuel Orr, Lindsay Palpastanis. All-State Treble Choir, Alexis Borwick, Sydney Cope, Chrissy Perez, and then some 4 that are really moving on to the next level. Samuel Orr ranked first in the state in bass 2. That's pretty good. From Mrs. Riccardi, Mrs. Martin told me. Lizzie Palpastanis ranked 8th in the state for soprano 2. Kenzie Begot ranked 11th in the state for alto 2. And Benji Morrison ranked 16th in the state for bass 1. So we have 4 students that are moving on. Quite a possibility of them moving on to All Eastern Choir, which is the Eastern Seaboard. And it's a very, very elite, prestigious accomplishment for our music students. So congratulations to them. They're going to perform, all the state will perform down in PSC and also Atlantic City in November. And then they have the PSC in February again for the All-State Choir. So a lot of great things for them. And again, our music program producing unbelievable results all throughout. This Thursday, we also have a town hall in Newton, and that is to recognize students through the Center for Prevention of Counseling and Evaluation. And they do an event every year for alcohol-free. And part of that alcohol awareness is April is Alcohol Awareness Month. And they invite students from all over the county to participate. You can present artwork, you can present poetry, and you can present also video work. So one of our students, Charlotte Pagliaro, was selected, and her video was selected as the top video submission of all in the county. So she's going to be recognized on Thursday night at the town hall in Newton. Senator Orojo will be there, as well as many others, and they'll speak to the students and talk to them about how they have made a difference, how they're standing up for what they believe in, which is so important. So Charlotte's going to represent there, and I'll be there for her on that as well. We had a great showing last week on the 19th for our STEM NHS ceremony. I believe we had over 60 students that were inducted overall. We had a large group as well. So that was a great night for that. That's science, technology, engineering, math, also business, which is not part of the acronym. Business is part of that as well. So that's a great event for our students, and so many great things that are going to be coming from that as well. This past Friday, we had a presentation from a speaker, Bobby Petrochelli. There's an article in the paper today. Thank you to the Herald for part of that. That was in the Herald today. It was a great story about the speaker, but also about the student's response. It was a grant that we were able to achieve with State Farm, the insurance agency. They reached out to us through Bambera and the community policing organization, so our partnership with the state police really paid off for that. Mrs. Frisbee, our transition counsel and also prevention counsel, worked on that, and she was able to align that and get that speaker in place. And really, I saw the whole entire thing. His presentation is called You Matter. So it was our prevention assembly for 11th and 12th graders. And he told the story, painted a picture of a story that happened to him about 30 years ago. And he saw in the newspaper today where he lost his wife tragically. But he wove that into his life experience over the last 30 years. And how each and every one of us matter, and we can make a difference to each other. So it wasn't the generic drinking and alcohol awareness type of discussion. It was more about life skills, life choices, and how in really a moment's time, an instant's time, your life can change. So make the best out of it, make a difference, help the others that are around you. And it was really, really well received. The students that were leaving, as the leader said, hands down the best speaker they've ever seen. So that was amazing to be able to bring in a really great partnership with State Farm. And we thank the state police for bringing that to us and offering that to us, because there was only a couple of us in the county that were able to have that opportunity. Last but not least, for some student events, we had the Chamber Singer Jazz Ensemble, the World Strides Music Festival. They're headed to Montreal on Friday morning, leaving about 5 o'clock in the morning. Taking a trip up there, and then the Heritage Festival that many of them compete for. It's a year-long competition to be able to be into that group and compete at that level. And there'll be obviously our music and also our band students as part of that. So really, again, a great cultural experience for our students, as well as competing and performing all along the way in Montreal. Can I move on to the athletic report, Mr. Billy? Is that okay? Okay, athletic report. I tried to update Mr. Minorities as we went today. Baseball so far is 6-3 for the year. They played North Hunterdon this Saturday in the HWS tournament, the first round of that. Softball lost tonight. They are 3-8 on the season. Had a great win last night. Boys and girls track. Girls won tonight, so they are 4-0. Boys lost. I think it was close to 67-72, 67-73. So they lost. They fell to 3-1. Nothing to be ashamed of there. And they're tied for the first division going up to tonight. So a great season again for them. We had a home meet. We had softball, boys tennis, and track all home today, so it's a nice campus. Golf is just trying to get out on the links. I know Mr. Minkwitz will appreciate that. The links have not been kind because of the weather, so they're just getting open and getting ready to go. So they're going to be beginning the season last week, and state 20 qualifications are only 3 weeks away, so it doesn't make a lot of sense, but we also have winter until the first week in April, so that's where we're at with that. Boys tennis won, they beat Kinsey tonight. So they are 5-2. I believe they are also tied for first place in the division, so they had a great win tonight. Boys lacrosse is 0-8 in the season so far. They're playing Hackerstown, Parsippany, and Blair Academy this week, so they got a busy schedule. Girls lacrosse 1-6 in the season. They have lost 4 games by 3 goals or less combined. And I don't know the score for tonight, but they played Kinsey today. Later on in May, we have the NJSIA Scholar Athlete, which is different than the Scholar Athlete that we had recently. And Catherine Valero will be our selection for that. And she'll be going down to Pines Manor on May 20th to represent High Point down in Edison, New Jersey. And our Pass Along Scholar Athlete, which was recently in the paper, that was supposed to be originated in March, but the snow changed that, was Sawyer Fenlon to represent High Point, as we expect, very, very well. And it was Pass Along did a great job with that banquet. He also received a $750 scholarship as well for his academic accolades, his community service, and his leadership overall. And that is all I have for reports. Any questions on that for anybody? Okay, thank you very much.
For construction, Mr. Drillick, academic supervisor for STEM, will present the board on matters relating to curriculum instruction.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Thank you, Mr. Calamay. On behalf of Mr. Campbell, I will be doing the curriculum report tonight. And with all due respect to my friendly colleague, Mr. Diabino, in the humanities, the majority of this discussion will be about STEM departments. So, one of the things that we have found ourselves speaking about a lot over the past several years, and I feel like it's something I've spent so much time with over the past 17 years during my career here, is the student experience that we have with reaching back to our community and our setting districts, and also trying to get them to embrace opportunities that they may have in their future that extend beyond just their grades and the experiences they have throughout their 4 years of high school. Some of the things I'm going to speak about tonight really focus in on building those relationships back to our sending districts and giving our students tangible takeaways is kind of how we like to refer to them, that extend, like I said, just beyond the grade or the moment or the class. It's become increasingly apparent through what we see in the economy and what we see locally that students need this. They need more than what the numbers are on their transcript. They need to leave here with tangible takeaways. They need to leave here with some of the terminology we use is kind of like a legacy piece. So we've kind of approached this challenge in a couple different ways. One of them is certification testing. We are uniquely suited in the STEM departments because of the nature of the classes and the coursework to give students opportunities in class to actually find and achieve industry certifications in a lot of different areas. We started to dabble a little bit with this last year with some pilot opportunities with entrepreneurship and through some of the different tech classes through capture and video game design. But we really have expanded that this year to include a couple others that really have a lot of pull industry-wide. One of them that we're really pleased to have offered and have had students pass so far this year is Microsoft Office Specialist. We've had a computer applications course of some type in the business department throughout my entire time here, but we've never really pulled the trigger on putting the systems in place to get Microsoft Office Specialist certification. So Ms. Posner was actually one of our students who achieved this a couple weeks ago, but she probably left. I was going to praise her. We had a couple of students, we piloted it this year. We reorganized the course catalog to hopefully increase the number of students who are exposed to this in coming years. But over the past couple of weeks, we've had 3 students achieve Microsoft Office Specialist in Word. And as you can see there, that graphic from Microsoft, 91% of hiring managers consider certification as part of their hiring criteria. So right off the bat, those 3 students are going to leave here with that. That will stay with them forever. Microsoft is somewhat interesting in a lot of ways, but it's somewhat interesting in the fact that you actually get certified in each sub-platform of Microsoft. So we introduced Word this year by the platform that most students have been familiar with for many, many years, but PowerPoint and Excel and the other ones also exist, and we're looking to move in that direction in coming years. We also have our second cohort of students who have been certified in entrepreneurship and small business. We had a couple students last year find this certification. We had 3 this past fall, and our entire entrepreneurship class is currently practicing for the administration of that test that will be forthcoming later this spring. Moving back just a little bit, what we also hope to offer and will offer this spring is Microsoft Technology Associate. Similarly, HTML and different web page design platforms, we have a student that will pilot those assessments. And then you can see the palette there of different industry certifications that we will offer out of room 123 with CAD architecture and video game design. What's pretty impressive about that list, you can see the professional version. We had 3 students last year that achieved user, and they're preparing now to take on the professional version of that industry certification, which is a remarkable accomplishment coming out of high school. That group is going to have concurrent enrollment from NJIT and the opportunity to get that professional industry certification on Autodesk. So we're really excited about it. The students have been preparing throughout the course of the year. The teachers are excited about it too. And we also are going to, we've already started this, but we're also going to recognize these students through some signage in the hallways. I found myself on various occasions here, and I find myself when I go to other schools, I look at how schools recognize their staff and their students. And I really acutely observe our guests when they come here as they walk through the hallways of this beautiful campus and what they see on the walls, and they look and they read, and they're pretty impressed by what's out there, and they see that in the hallways. If it's something that's just posted in the classroom, they might not go in that particular classroom. So we feel it's important to recognize them, and like I said before, I want Alyssa to come back in a couple of years. I want her to come back sooner than that. But when she comes back in a couple of years, to walk through the hallway and see her name on the wall, which she will in a couple of weeks when that comes in. So we're really excited about all of that. Another thing we're looking to do, and kind of shifting gears a little bit, our construction and manufacturing class, right now our 2 fastest growing electives, at least for this current school year, were material processing, biotechnology. The 3rd level of material processing we call construction and manufacturing. Next year, that class will get concurrent enrollment credit through Sussex County Community College. But going back to that idea of a tangible takeaway for those students, we piloted NOPI testing with them earlier this spring, actually in cabinet making, which if you were to walk into that class, you would really not explicitly see any students making cabinets, but the sub-skills and subsystems that they need to have to be put in that kind of situation, they are learning those skills through that program. So they piloted the cabinet making Nocti test earlier this spring. They did very well without really specific instruction on what was going to be on the assessment, because we were just trying to get an idea of where we were. We were really happy with the results, and it's something now that we're looking into possibly offering as an end-of-year or end-of-course assessment for those students, which, again, coupled with concurrent enrollment from county and with the industry certification granted through NACDI, that they would, again, be able to leave here with a tangible takeaway. They are an amazing group of students. You guys have seen throughout the building some of the lasting pieces they've had between the media center and the outdoor courtyards and some of the things that they make, so we're really excited about giving them the opportunity to have that as well. This is hot off the presses within the past hour and a half or so, as we continue to grow our concurrent enrollment network across North Jersey. My colleague, I'll mention, I guess. My colleague and I, Mr. Diadino, went to Ramapo a couple weeks ago to meet with the college president and the vice president of academic affairs there, and looking to kind of hit on some of the courses that we haven't been able to connect with yet through either Sussex County Community College, NGIT, or Syracuse. So, like I said, within the past hour and a half or so, we've come to an agreement on our environmental systems course. So that will be something in play for those students starting next year. I know Mr. Diadino has 4 or 5 classes pending as well. Ramapo will visit either in late May or early June to speak with us and our guidance counselors and our staff. Kind of how the process works for them. Each one of the colleges, the procedural steps are a little bit different, but we're really excited about that. They've been very cooperative. We had a wonderful meeting with the college president, spent a lot of time with us, and we talked about a lot of different things related to high schools and colleges in New Jersey and how we can work together to improve our relationship and just the relationship between high schools and colleges in general. So our count now is at 4 colleges that we have this relationship with, and we're continually looking, especially for our non-AP classes, to give students opportunities to gain concurrent enrollment credit. And now we're going to have another one next year with environmental systems. Now, back to the relationships that we are building and continuing to improve with our communities. Our STEM League event here on March 23rd, a little bit of brief background on that. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago, a high school teacher from Waldwick was kind of getting fed up a little bit with the acronym STEM. And he's a technology teacher because it's everywhere, it's out there. But in most places, all it is that it's still science, it's still math, it's still technology, and your business. What he said, we need to stop just using this acronym as an acronym. We need to stop this as just a place to go buy toys on Amazon.com, but it has to mean something. So he said, we need to create a system where students actually use and apply science and math concepts and use those to actually design whatever it is they're engineering or building or prototyping. So for the past 3 or 4 years, we participated in these programs across the state on the high school level. And what I noticed as a teacher doing this, when I would go and attend with our math and science teachers, my students were like, you talk to him? I never see you with those people. You have his phone number. And it was kind of nice to see the students, see us working together between different departments. So what the teachers did on March 23rd is present a similar event to students from Sussex One, Lafayette, and Frankfurt. Students from all of our setting districts were invited. We had 2 groups of 4 students from each one of the setting districts. They were here all day. They had a math and science lab in the morning run by Mr. Moransek and Mrs. Abrams, and then they used those math and science concepts in the design, development, and testing of their vehicles, those little CO2 powered car with an egg on it, to test their vehicle in the afternoon. They were totally energized, happy, excited. We had a really amazing slow-mo video of the egg actually popping out of the car and exploding. And we have tried to present that in a public way, and we are still trying. So as soon as we can figure it out, I will share it with you. It's an amazing thing to watch. Samsung technology is so good we can't even get it to display correctly. So eventually we'll get there. It was great. The students from the top 3 finishing places were recognized. Our students designed and laser engraved the plaques for them. Again, thank you to the New Jersey Herald for a really nice article talking about just the nice community event it was with the students from this region. So it also was a nice opportunity for our teachers and the teachers from the setting districts to spend the day together and speak about some of the things that we naturally have in common. Another thing that we're really excited about, we were contacted by a group of parents, teachers, and students from Frankfurt, as young as 5th grade, who have started this Frankenstein Club this winter. They met every Friday all winter long. Unfortunately, we had snow. It felt like every Friday, so it took us a long time to get together. One of our staff members, Mr. Capper, went down to meet with them, and then eventually, a couple weeks ago, they came up here to tour our program in all of our rooms. Credit to some of our teachers up there, Mr. Capper, Mr. Peltier, Mr. Penland, Mr. Gonzalez. All the rooms were opened up, the students got a chance to tour. Some of them are 9 or 10 years old, asking when they can get here. They want to come here now. Don't slow down, enjoy middle school. It'll be here when you get here, and probably better. But they were very, very energized. They are doing some amazing stuff with Arduinos and drones and electronics and robotics. They are sponges for all that. We were showing them some of our previous TSA projects. They were totally locked and loaded there. And it's nice to know that we have this group down there, so as I continue to receive different correspondence related to things that get sent down, and hopefully give them a chance to take part in it throughout their middle school years. Everywhere we go, actually ironically, as I attend different math, science, and technology things, naturally the topics are different. The one topic that is found and pronounced and discussed at all of them, all the time, is computer science. So we continue to move through our year of code. The hour of code is designated in December. Mr. Emma and his intro to computer science students continue to go to the sending districts. This was remarkable last week or 2 weeks ago. They were actually working with 2nd and 3rd graders on coding and little robotics. I said before about the community, our students love going back to their sending districts to work with their former teachers and the current students. Mr. Baker and Ms. Ayers have done this with science several times this year already in Frankfurt. So our students love doing this, the 2nd and 3rd graders love this, and it's nice to see that even though December is the formal time, that this work continues throughout the course of the year. Last week we had park administration, and this week we have park makeups. I can't tell you how incredibly proud I am. As Mr. Campbell has probably shared at previous meetings, our park administration this year was split up to a certain degree. Last week we had geometry, algebra 2, and the 3 ELA parks. And then in late May we have the algebra 1 park. So last July, some of our math teachers were in here with me. We're going over last year's park data to try to get a sense of where our students are and where they need to be moving into this year when the algebra 1 park counts for our 9th graders. So they suggested last July, why don't we take this window of time where everybody else in the school is taking the park test and use that as a time to have really focused instruction for our algebra 1 students in 9th grade. So that was last July. All year long we spoke about this, and we looked at different ways to deliver this kind of experience for our 9th and 10th grade students. Using data on this year's students that they have in class, they used a couple of different metrics to do that. They took the 150 or 160 students or so, they broke up these students into 7 different classrooms, all of which contain math teachers, not necessarily their math teacher, but math teachers. And they used the 270 minutes they had last week while everybody else was taking the park to specifically focus on the skills and concepts that our students are going to need when they take the park on May 22nd and May 23rd. I am so incredibly proud of their work and their dedication and their commitment to seeing this idea through from last July all the way through the course of the year and delivering this experience to the kids last week. The feedback from the kids was phenomenal. They did a little math, they ate some cookies, they had some Capri Suns, they did a little bit more math, they played Yahtzee, they talked about functions, they played Yahtzee again, they mixed it up. It was kind of like watching a coach run practice where you go hard, pull back, go harder, pull back a little bit. And over the course of the 2 days where everybody else was taking the math part, that's what was going on upstairs for our students who are going to take it in May. The feedback from the students has been really, really positive. They were very excited, and we're going to see this through to a big performance in park at the end of May. As Mr. Talamay said, there's our crew for. That's a lot of students that fit in the staircase last Thursday night, but it was a great group. Again, almost 100 students between all the different societies inducted, a number of students inducted into multiple ones, 2 students inducted into 3 of them. So again, trying to bring life to this acronym and see how interconnected all the subjects are and the excellence that the students have in not just one area, but several areas. And it was a really fun night for all of us to be a part of. And then lastly, our extracurricular success over the course of this spring. We've always taken a lot of pride here in our CTSOs, both from the tech department and the business department. All three of the state competitions have now been completed. Our tech students competed at the College of New Jersey on April 14th, and we had a number of students qualify to go to nationals in Atlanta, which will take place in June. So we're excited to see that. And we are also excited for the professional activities and leadership that our staff is showing through some major professional development associations throughout the course of this year. This has been a year-long concerted effort that kind of started last school year. As you guys have heard from previous board meetings and from them personally, we have again, bringing life to the acronym, we have one math teacher, one science teacher, and one technology teacher now for the second year working on a collaborative unit that brings all those subject areas together. Last October, Alex Gonzalez, Andy Ancarino, and Becky Sarno presented to a regional audience in Baltimore. This Saturday morning, they are going to present to a national audience in Washington, D.C. We have a group of us going down there tomorrow, and another group is going down Friday. So they are now sharing this. Again, I say computer science is found at all of them. What's not nearly found at any of them is evidence that people are pulling the three together. And they are going to speak on Saturday morning, just as they did last October in Baltimore, on how now for the second straight year they are pulling it together, despite the natural challenges of classes and PLC time and different groups of students and different challenges. So I'm very proud of the work that they continue to do. I'm looking forward to spending some time in preparing for the presentation over the next couple of days down in Washington. Mr. Peltier and I also presented a couple weeks ago in Atlanta to a national audience about how to brand and promote your program. Speaking a lot about the similar things I'm speaking to you about tonight on how important it is to reach out to the community and give students, not just here but everywhere, from these programs more than just that grade, that they leave high school with these tangible takeaways. We actually met up with a lot of former students who were there representing their colleges and who were going on to become future teachers, so that was a nice experience for the two of us. It made us feel a little old, but nonetheless it was very rewarding. So that's what's happening in the world of STEM. Any questions from anybody? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
You're welcome.
We'll move on to annual appointments, adoptions, and designations. Seeking a motion on items 1 through 10. Number 1 being recommended by the superintendent that the board designate Dr. Denise O'Connor, school doctor, effective July 1, 2018 through June 30, 2019, for an annual fee of $13,000. Number 2, recommended by the superintendent that the board appoint the director of safety and security as the attendance officer for the 18-19 school year. Number 3, recommended by the superintendent that the board of education appoint the individuals listed below as the affirmative action for the 18-19 school year. Number 4, recommended by the superintendent that the board of education appoint Scott Ripley as the school safety specialist for the 18-19 school year. Number 5, recommended by the superintendent that the board of education appoint the director of safety and security as the bullying specialist for the 18-19 school year. Number 6, recommended by the superintendent that the board of education appoint the supervisor of buildings and grounds as the safety compliance officer, IPM coordinator, HPRA, air quality designee, chemical hygiene officer, and the right to know officer for the 18-19 school year. Number 7, recommended by the superintendent that the board of education approve the following tax shelter annuity companies for the 18-19 school year. Equitable Lincoln Planning Incorporated, T. Rowe Price. Number 8, recommended by the superintendent that the board of education approve all job descriptions, handbook policies, regulations, and other legislative or regulatory action of the board hereby to be enforced through June 30, 2019, and subject to revisions as recommended by the superintendent. 9, recommended by the superintendent that the board of education approve the following annual certified cost per pupil for tuition adjustment purposes for the 18-19 school year as listed. Number 10, recommended by the superintendent that the board of education approve the following substitute pay rates for the 18-19 school year as listed. Seeking a motion.
Second.
Any discussion on 1 through 10? All right, roll call.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn? Yes. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Ratcliffe?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Conner?
Yes.
Mr. Gilly?
Yes. Action items, curriculum, instruction and technology, Mrs. Anderson.
Okay. The board acknowledges the first three reports, the faculty attendance rate, the student attendance rate, and the suspension report. Items 1 through 3. I'm going to move items 4 through 8. 4, that the Board of Education approve the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report for the period of March 13th through April 24th, 2018. Number 5, that we approve the field trips listed on attachments A5A and A5B. Number 6, that we approve the professional development activities listed on the attached roster at A6. Number 7, that the board approves the memorandum of understanding between High Point Regional High School Board of Education and Sussex County Sheriff's Office, attachment A7. And number 8, that we approve the revised job description G2 of the school security officer. Moving those two, need a second?
Second.
Any questions, conversations? Okay, roll call?
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Radcliffe?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Conner?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Veely?
Yes. Personnel, Mr. Dunn.
Okay, under personnel, I would like to move items 1 through 6 together. Item 1 is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education accepts with regret the retirement notification by Linda Abrams, teacher of mathematics, effective July 1st, 2018. Item 2 is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the certificated and non-certificated staff members for the 2018-2019 school year as listed in attachment B1A through F. Item 3 is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves Kevin Craig as the anti-bullying specialist effective July 1st, 2018 for the 2018-2019 school year. Item 4 is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves Daniel Cipoletti as a co-op student effective March 22nd, 2018 to fill a void in our maintenance department created by a student returning to a full schedule for the remainder of the 2017-2018 school year at the rate of $8.44 per hour, not to exceed 15 hours per week. The student will follow rules and regulations set forth for the program. Item 5 is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves to raise the substitute bus driver hourly rate effective immediately from $20 to $22 per hour. And item 6 is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the appointment of the following individuals as a substitute effective immediately for the remainder of the 2017-2018 school year. As listed, Jennifer DiMartino. Seeking a second?
Second.
Any discussion on items 1 through 6?
I'd like to say something about Linda Abrams. John, tell me how long she worked here.
I want to say 22, I was going to guess. 22. Maybe 22.
Yeah. She's just been here a long time, and she's of that math department that you don't get to see that much of because they're busy in their math classrooms working with their math students all the time. But she just has loved her subject area forever and ever, and she loves her students, and she also participated heavily in our peer counseling program, which gave her another opportunity to work with our students, and she just has been above and beyond with how she dedicated herself to her students. So I think we're going to miss her tremendously.
Yeah, I would just like to say congratulations to Ms. Abrams on a stellar career that has influenced the lives of children across this community for 20 plus years. And I don't know how many jobs enable you to retire and feel a sense of having impacted that number of lives and feeling as if you changed the world. And Ms. Abrams' commitment to her craft and her commitment to the students has been something that has impacted positively this community. So I'd like to say congratulations.
Any other discussion on items 1 through 6? Roll call, please.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Radcliffe?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Conner?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Veely?
Yes. Extracurricular, Mr. Dunn.
Certainly. let me move items 1 and 2 together. Item 1 is recommended by Superintendent that the Board of Education accepts the resignation of Brian Emma as 2018 class advisor, effective for the 2018-2019 school year. And item 2 is recommended by the Superintendent that the Board of Education accepts the resignation of Amanda Miller as head field hockey coach, effective for the 2018-2019 school year. Seeking a second.
Second?
Any discussion on those two? Roll call, please.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Conrad?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Veely?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to move item 3 with a modification that may be present on some of the publicly released agenda. The correction is to the assistant boys soccer coach, Kevin Fenlon. The long-term longevity eligibility should be Y for yes. So with that correction, I'd like to move item 3. It is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the following athletic appointments for the 2018-2019 school year, and they are as listed with that one modification. Seeking a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Conrad?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Veely?
Yes.
And I will move the remaining items 4, 5, and 6 together. Item 4 is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the cooperative agreement with Walk Hill Valley Regional High School, attachment C1, for the school years 2018-2019 and 2019-2020 in the following sports: boys lacrosse, boys and girls swimming, and ice hockey. Item 5 is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves summer physical dates as listed. And item 6 is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves athletic trainer substitute ATC services coverage at the rate of $35 per hour through the Orthopedic Institute of New Jersey for the 2018-2019 school year, attachment C2. Seeking a second on those.
Second?
Any discussion on items 4, 5, or 6?
Ms. Conrad?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Veely?
Yes. Policy, Mr. Dunn.
Okay. I'll move item 1. It's recommended by the superintendent, the Board of Education approves the following revised policies and regulations. I'll read the titles without the attachment designations and policy numbers. Military leave for teaching staff members, military leave for support staff members, high school transcripts, educational adequacy of capital projects, school district security, policy regulation, electronic surveillance in school buildings and on school grounds, policy regulation, bus driver, bus aid responsibility, emergency school bus procedures, evaluation of school business administrator, job descriptions, curriculum development, programs for pregnant students, instructional supplies, sexual harassment, withdrawal from school, student suicide, reporting student progress, harassment, intimidation, bullying, care of school property, disaffected students, disruptive students, school safety, school security, and benefits. Seeking a second. Any discussion on any of those policy or regulation?
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Conrad?
Yes.
Mr. Veely?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to move an amended item 2. The first item listed, policy 0169.02, board member use of social networks. We are going to strike from this motion, and the following 2 will remain. Lead testing of waters in schools and use of electronic signature. So with that amendment, I'd like to move item 2 is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the first reading of the following new policies and regulations: lead testing of water schools and use of electronic signatures. Any discussion on item 2? Okay.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Eckliff.
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson.
Yes.
Ms. Conner.
Yes.
Mr. Notaro.
Yes.
Mr. Bealey.
Yes. Negotiations. We continue to move forward with negotiations with the EA. We actually have a meeting tomorrow evening, which will continue. Building the grounds.
Okay, I'd like to move item number 1. It is recommended the Board of Education accept the lowest bid and award the contract to Walktrough Incorporated, accepting alternate number 1, which is a deduct for all existing ceiling grid in the area of work shall be cleaned and repainted white. And alternate number 2, which is a deduct, all proposed work within the auxiliary gym be removed from the scope of work in the amount of $508,200. Included in this amount is the $50,000 contingency line item to be used for any unforeseen conditions. Walktrough Group's bid of $508,200, and Mark Construction came in at $551,300.
Yes.
Second.
Tom, did you second?
Yes.
Any questions?
There were only the two bids.
Correct.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Eckliff.
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson.
Yes.
Ms. Conner.
Yes.
Mr. Notaro.
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Bealey.
Yes. Finance, grouping items 1 through 5. Number 1, recommended by the Board of Education, recommended that the Board of Education accept the report of the Board of Superintendent Business Administrator for the month of March 2018, June 1. 2, we accept the report of the treasurer for the month of March 2018, attachment G2. Recommended that the Board approve the report of transfers for the month of March, attachment G3. 4, recommend the Board approve the payment of attached schedule of new bills dated April 24th, 2018, G4. And number 5, recommend the Board accept the agency account, adult education, athletic account, cafeteria account, petty cash, school storage, student accounts for the month of March 2018, attachment G5A and G5B. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion on 1 through 5? All right.
Mr. Eckliff.
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson.
Yes.
Ms. Conner.
Yes.
Mr. Notaro.
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Bealey.
Yes. Okay, number 6, I will read. Sorry. Be a result of the Board of Education. Board approve the adoption of the school budget for the 18-19 school year as follows: travel related expense reimbursement of 18-19. Whereas the High Point Regional High School Board of Education recognizes school staff and board members will incur travel expenses related to and within the scope of their current responsibility for travel that promotes the delivery of instruction, furthers the efficient operation of the school industrial. And whereas NJAC 6823B1.1 requires board members to receive approval of these expenses by majority of the full voting membership of the board, and staff members to receive prior approval of these expenses by the superintendent of schools and majority of the full voting membership of the board. Whereas the High Point Regional High School Board of Education may establish for regular district business travel within the annual school year threshold of $1,500 per staff member, or prior board approval shall not be required unless the same threshold for a staff member is exceeded in a given school year, which is July 1 to June 30th. And whereas travel-related expenses not in compliance with NJAC 6823B1.1 is deemed by High Point Regional High School Board of Education to be necessary and unavoidable as noted on the approved High Point Regional High School Board of Education out-of-district travel reimbursement forms. Now therefore be a result of High School Board of Education approve all travel non-compliance with NJAC 6823B1.1 being necessary and unavoidable as noted on the approved High Point Regional High School Board of Education out-of-district travel reimbursement forms. Be it further resolved that the High Point Regional High School Board of Education approve travel-related expense reimbursements in accordance with NJAC 6823B1.2B to a maximum expenditure of $75,000 for all staff and board members. The adoption of the budget of the 18-19 school year be resolved that the budget be approved for the 18-19 school year using the 18-19 state aid figures, and Secretary of the High Point Regional High School Board of Education be authorized to submit the following budget to the Executive County Superintendent as listed in our presentation. Be it resolved that High Point Regional High School Board of Education approves the levy of general fund taxes for the 18-19 school budget to be $14,256,964. Capital reserve account withdrawal. Be it resolved that the High Point Regional High School Board of Education request to approve the capital reserve withdrawal for the 18-19 tentative school budget in the amount of $300,000 for the following projects at the High Point Regional High School is contained in the amended long-range facility plan: 2 science rooms and auxiliary gym renovations. Maintenance reserve account withdrawal. Be it resolved that the High Point Regional High School Board of Education approve the maintenance reserve withdrawal for the 18-19 tentative school budget in the amount of $300,000 for the following maintenance at the High Point Regional High School: 2 science rooms and auxiliary gym renovations. Be it resolved that the public hearing was held in the cafeteria annex at High Point Regional High School, 299 Fish Hill Road, Sussex, New Jersey, on April 2018 at 7 p.m. for the purpose of conducting a public hearing on the budget for the 18-19 school year. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on item 6? Roll call.
Mrs. Anderson.
Yes.
Ms. Conrad.
Yes.
Mr. Notaro.
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe.
Yes.
Mr. Beal.
Yes. Okay, I'll approve items 7 through 14. Number 7, being recommended by the Superintendent of the Board of Education to approve the following vendors for professional services for the 18-19 school year as listed. Number 8, recommended that the board authorize the school business administrator, board secretary, in consultation and agreement with the superintendent process line item transfers and compliance with required approvals per S1701 and A3680 between board meetings for the 18-19 school year. Number 9, recommended that the board authorize the school business administrator in consultation agreement with the superintendent and board president to verify payroll bills as needed to protect the interest of the board between meetings. Bills will be listed as paid at the next regular board meeting, 18A 19-4.1. Number 10, be it resolved that the board approve the following resolution authorizing contracts with approved state contract vendors for boards of education pursuant to that statute, effective July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. The school year as follows, and that is as listed. I will not read that in its entirety. Number 11 is recommended that the board will not require the Lakeland Academy, Lakeland Andover to apply for and receive funding from the New Jersey Child Nutrition Program or change students for a reduced and or paid meal for any classified student from High Point Regional High School in accordance with NJIC 6823 18.5A, 2, and 3 during the 18-19 school year. Number 12, recommended that the board approve an agreement between the High Point Regional High School Board of Education and J&D Therapy LLC to provide occupational, physical, and or speech therapy as needed for the 18-19 school year at the rate of $95 an hour. 13, recommended the board approve an agreement between the High Point Regional High School Board of Education and Mary Ellen Diffley to provide physical therapy services as needed for the 18-19 school year at the rate of $85 per hour, $100 per hour for services provided to students only. It is recommended that the board approve to read out from our media center the library books on the attached list. And G6, did I say 15? So, all right, so we'll stop at number 14. See, I need a motion.
Second.
Any discussion on those items? I will just say that nutritional program, is that what you're going to bring up? What that is, that we, I think it's kind of confusing if somebody doesn't know what it is.
The nutritional program, sometimes private schools have such a low enrollment of students that qualify for free and reduced lunch. They don't want to go through the paperwork, so they pay for those students, free and reduced out of their own funds, and they just need our permission to do it. So we give them that.
Okay, roll call.
Ms. Conrad.
Yes.
Mr. Notaro.
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe.
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Beal.
Yes. All right, number 15, a resolution appointing fund commissioners to the school health insurance fund be resolved by the High Point Regional High School Board of Education that James Bigglewith is hereby appointed as fund commissioner to the school health insurance fund effective July 1, 2018, to represent High Point Regional High School Board of Education. It be a further result that Frank Wojciechowski is appointed as alternate fund commissioner for the school health insurance fund effective July 1st, 2018. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Ratcliffe?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Conrad?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes. That was in preparation for number 16, resolution authorizing the change in medical prescription carriers. Whereas High Point Regional High School Board of Education currently offers medical prescription coverage to employees through Verizon, Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, and whereas Integrity Consulting Group, the Board's health insurance broker, has received a quote on behalf of the Board of Education from the School Health Insurance Fund, Aetna, and the Public Employer Benefits Trust RX Alliance, Medicard, and whereas the quoted rates received from the School Health Insurance Fund and Aetna, and the Public Employer Benefits Trust RX Alliance, Medicard, are less expensive than the current Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey rates for the period of July 1, 2018 through June 30, 2019. And whereas the School Health Insurance Fund, Aetna, and the Public Employer Benefits Trust RX Alliance, Medicard is guaranteed equal to or better than benefits in the current Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey plan. And whereas Integrity Consulting Group recommends a change in medical prescription carriers effective July 2018. Now therefore be it resolved by the High Point Regional Board of Education that the change in the medical prescription carriers of the School Health Insurance Fund, Aetna, and the Public Employer Benefits Trust RX Alliance Medicard be effective July 1, 2018. Be it further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution be forwarded to Integrity Consulting Group for execution with insurance carrier. Receiving motion.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion on item 16? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Ratcliffe?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Conrad?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes. We group in items 17 through 27. Number 17 is recommended that the board approve disposal of HP Design Jet T1300E printer and place the items on GovDeals. Number 18 recommended that we approve the list of surplus property to be sold through GovDeals, which is that item as listed. Number 19, recommended that the board approve the resolution for the participation in joint transportation agreement between Sussex County Regional Transportation Co-op and High Point Regional High School for the anticipated athletic and field trips for the 18-19 school year with a 4% administrative fee. Number 20, recommended that the board approve the resolution for the participation in joint transportation agreements between the Monmouth Ocean Educational Services Commission and the High Point Regional High School for anticipated transportation for special ed, non-public, public, and or vocational school students during the 18-19 school year with a 5.5% administrative fee. 21, recommended that the board approve the resolution for participation in the agreement for the resale of motor fuel as part of the commodity resale system, the County of Sussex during the 18-19 school year. Number 22, recommended that the board approve the following tuition contracts between High Point Regional High School sending and the following districts and related information as listed. Number 23, recommended that the board approve the following agreement for one-on-one teacher assistance between High Point Regional High School and Burlington County Special Ed Services School District in the amount of $37,900 per year, prorated to the number of days a student is enrolled during the 17, is that right, 17-18 school year?
Yes, a continuation.
Okay. Number 24, recommended that the board grant permission to the Synergy Dance Company, Carrie Bird, to have a dance recital on June 2nd, 2018, during the hours of 1 p.m. 25, recommended that the board grant permission to the High Point Hoops basketball camp, Christopher Dexter and Jesse Strell, to host a non-affiliated co-ed basketball camp, which will run from July 16th through the 19th, 2018, during the hours of 8:30 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. The camp will be self-supporting, with charges $5 per participant. Number 26 is recommended that the board grant permission to the High Point Hoops basketball camp, Chris Dexter and Jesse Strell, to host the non-affiliated co-ed basketball camp, which will run from July 23rd through 26th, 2018, during the hours of 8:30 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. The camp will be self-supporting, with charges $5 per participant. And number 27 is recommended that the board grant permission to the soccer edge camp, Kevin Fetch, to host non-affiliated co-ed, strike that, student soccer. Camp, which will run from August 6th through 10th, 2018, during the hours of 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. The camp will be self-supporting and will charge $100 for the youth age and $150 for high school age participants. Seeking a motion.
Second.
Any discussion on those lengthy items, 17.10? No. Roll call.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Ratcliffe?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Conrad?
Yes.
Mr. Bealey?
Yes. Transportation, Mr. Miller, you can say.
Okay, I will move items number 1 through 6. Number 1, it is recommended by the superintendent that the board approves the following joint transportation agreement for the remainder of the 2017-18 school year. Where the host is High Point, the joiner is Walkhill Valley Regional High School, for route HPQ 1712 as listed. Item number 2, it is recommended by the superintendent that the board approves the following student transportation contract transfer agreement for the remainder of the 2017-18 school year, effective 4/1/18, for route HPQ 1708 as listed. Item number 3, it is recommended by the superintendent that the board approves the following to and from special education quote approve to the contractor with the only quote for the 2017-18 school year, which was by D.W. Clark & Sons, HPQ 1711 as listed, and Nor Transportation, HPQ 1712 as listed. Item number 4, it is recommended that the board approves the following quoted contracts for trips for the 2017-18 school year. Stocker Bus Service, MC TQ-05 as listed. Frank Marks Coach Company doing business as March Group for Q50 field trip. Havens Bus Service for Q52 field trip. Havens Bus Service again for Q58 athletic trip. Item number 5, it is recommended by the superintendent that the board approves Newton Urgent Care as the CDL drug and alcohol testing facility from April 1st, 2018 to March 31st, 2019. High Point Regional High School District and school district bus drivers will be part of the Newton Urgent Care FMCSA consortium with other Sussex County district school bus drivers for CDL drug and alcohol testing purposes in order to share costs. Finally, item number 6, it is recommended that the board approves the following quoted contracts for trips for the 2017-18 school year. Havens Bus Service Q61 athletic trip. Looking for a second.
Second.
Questions?
No.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Ratcliffe?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Conrad?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Bealey?
Yes. All right, legal. We have no legal ed for us at this time. We have no correspondence. Miscellaneous, the annual retirement recognition luncheon will be held on Thursday, June 21st, 2018. And public comments, again, same rules apply. Okay, thank you. Non-committee board member reports and comments. Anybody?
I just want to say, I said this a couple of times this evening, but saying it here in front of the camera. Next meeting, May 22nd, is our board, New Jersey School Board Association-led school board ethics workshop. It will begin at 6 p.m. I think we're going to have it in the media center. It's open to the public because it's not an executive session. But then we'll be in here for our 7 p.m. start for business.
And we're not executive after.
Oh, yeah, right, exec afterwards.
Anybody else? All right, other business? I don't think we have any. All right, adjournment, need a motion? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?